Hello, in this episode, Fathers and Sons Are Complicated, the much anticipated return of the Lang's grave, Tyler gives Clark a bad touch, and Pepper bites the dust. This is the Smallville Chronicles.
Somebody save me. Let your warm hands break right through. Somebody save me.
Hello, I'm Lou Gonzalez, and joining me, as always, is Alan Muir.
I found out that there's a podcast that is exactly our format that is being done for Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, that's actually hilarious. I was never a big Trekkie guy. My aunt is. I think I've seen a handful of the original series episodes. I've seen all the movies, except for like the last movie, like the actual new one. And then I saw
That's the best, but it's the best one, though.
that's still what do you call it? That's doing Aquaman did that one, right?
Yeah, Justin Lin.
Yeah, and I think maybe I've missed like one or two of the next gen movies. Whatever the one where what's his name? That's Venom. I don't think I've ever really seen that one in completely.
Oh, Nemesis?
Yeah, because he plays Picard's clone, right? Hardy.
Yeah, he plays Shinzon.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw that one. I do love First Contact though. I think that is such.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only good film.
What was the other one where there's like the ribbon? Is that First Contact as well?
There's
The one that
First Contact, there's Generations.
which is the one with where Shatner appears.
Generation.
Okay, those are the two I remember the most. But I do like the Borg as a concept, so that's why I like First Contact. All right, but I wanted to break the news. So I've randomly been playing the trial for Madden 19, and there's like the story mode, which they're doing in sports games now. So, Alan, this is the cast. The GM is played by Rob Schneider.
I'm not playing this game then.
But this will make you check out the videos. The other two big names on it are two of the main characters from This Is Us. It is not Justin Hartley. It is the man that plays, oh my god, what's his name in Luke Cage with the chess?
Ron Jones?
Yes, he plays the quarterback coach.
I'm buying this game then.
Yeah, so basically he takes over because last year we had Marsala Ali. And then the other character is the guy that plays Toby, that's also in Guardians too. He plays, I think, like the left tackle that's just giving you crap the whole time. It is so weird. And they did like the full facial capture. So it is just weird to like, I guess they must have went to like a This Is Us and we're like, all right, let's see which guys we can get. And there was the two of them, and that's who's in the game.
You know, I was hoping, and with that, whenever I hope for a certain thing, it doesn't happen. I was hoping you were going to say the guy that plays Jack Pearson.
Oh, yeah, that would be funny.
No, that would have, if he played the father to the new star.
Oh, it's actually the same characters from last year.
I know, but if they did like.
Oh, if he was like the other guy's dad, yeah, it would have been interesting. I think the other guy, they showed him. I think he's somebody. But like the facial features, I couldn't pick out. Like the closest celebrity I could think of was like he kind of looked like Rick Springfield, but why and who cares if it was him? I don't know. It's just like interesting and goofy. And then I can't remember, like whoever was the old high school coach is still in it, which it's not Wilford Brimley. It's like the other guy that was in all those movies in like the 80s, the giant mustache that's Southern. But that is a total tangent that I just had to bring up because I know that you love what's his name from This Is Us, and when he popped up in the game, I was so confused. But again, they had Marsala Ali in last year's game, so I was like, I guess this makes sense.
Yeah, last year's game I own.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, because Marsala Ali played your character's father. What's his name plays the quarterback coach. I guess he's like your mentor, but I don't know. It's weird. But we can actually talk about this episode, which also is weird.
And deals with fathers.
Yeah, like the whole episode, there's like kind of three different father-son relationships. And this episode starts off with euthanasia.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
is the only episode, I think in the entire history of Smallville where I put it on, immediately wanted to turn it off.
Yeah, it's a wonky episode. This episode is Reaper, because we haven't actually said it. So this is episode 17. And we're
getting to that tornado.
Yes, we are. So we basically start off with a son visiting his mother. He hasn't seen her in a while, and she asks him to kill her. So he puts a pillow over her face, and then
she starts flatlining, and a nurse comes in and says, "What the hell are you doing? Get him out of here! Security!"
Yeah, and basically a scuffle ensues, and he goes like through a window on like the 5th floor or something like that.
Yeah.
and dies.
The medical examiner notes that there's a lot of fractures, so it was not a good. It was a. I imagine it like you just see he falls out the window and that's it. You know, it's not like Watchmen where a comedian is going at like you see his perspective, and well, actually that doesn't count anymore because of Doomsday Clock. Got it.
Yeah,
Comic.
it's very similar to what we saw from Chloe a couple episodes ago when she went out the window at Lex's mansion, where like you see him go through the glass, and then you see him like from the other side coming through the glass, and then you just hear a thud. Like it cuts back to the guard or somebody.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the medical examiner, and he's going over the body, and like you said, he is going over. He like actually breaks the hand backwards, and sees that he had like some sort of a.
He had a mineral rock in his.
Yeah, it was from like a bracelet or something, right?
Yeah, that got embedded in his skin, and he couldn't get it out. So, or as he was trying to get it out, the guy came back from the dead and awoke.
Yeah, it was.
Which I just have to say, as a comic book fan, seeing what it did to Lex in the comics from long-term exposure, and what it did to this person long-term exposure, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't understand how it works.
How it could bring someone back from. Well, technically, later on in the episode, we're told that his heart isn't beating.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's pretty much a zombie that has a sentient zombie.
But what doesn't make sense is that, in a weird way, how is he coming back? Like in most of the other ones, we kind of get some sort of, I don't know, something of an explanation of why.
The Fountain of Youth one, I'm still I'm still mind boggled over it.
Yeah, I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. It's basically just like in his wrist.
Yeah.
So from here, the medical examiner pulls it out. Then all of a sudden, the guy wakes up, touches him, and then proceeds to, like, he just turns him into ashes. It's very weird.
It's sort of the effect similar to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Terrigen crystals.
Yes.
And somehow it looked cheap here, or at least it looked cheap to me. Yet when Adama gets misted by Jiaying, I was like, "Oh my god, that looks like it would really hurt."
Yeah, it's interesting, like, because you kind of see the skeleton break down at first, but then but then it turns like you kind of, I don't know, I guess the skeleton turns to ash too, but it kind of everything turns to ash from the outside, and it is an interesting effect. It's just a little erratic, I guess, and I don't know. It's interesting, and they do like a lot of cutaways because we see it happen 3 times. So there, and then the other lady, and then the guy who accidentally grabs him.
Well, technically, the coroner, the old lady, the dog, the fruit that Martha is bringing in.
Oh yes, I forgot about the fruit.
And the guy who tries to stop the Reaper, and it partially happens to Clark.
Yes, that is true. It does definitely partially happen to Clark. All right, so the next thing that we see is Martha and Clark, speaking of which, going and delivering food. It's like a Meals on Wheels kind of thing. If like that's kind of what they were going for.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Good way to approach it.
Yeah, so they're delivering food to older people, and
can't get food on their own anymore.
Yes. Yeah, so they're delivering food, and then what we get introduced to the guy that died, Tyler, and we see him talk to Mrs. Sykes, and we get to see the dog Pepper, who barks at everybody, and she tells him how her favorite flower is a white rose, and he says he'll visit her later.
Also, and she says, "I like this one."
Yes. Also during this, we see Clark and Martha talking about the fishing trip that that Clark and Jonathan have gone on every year since he was a little kid, and how Clark kind of really doesn't want to do it. And she says that's kind of between you and him, and you should let him know.
Yeah, I forgot. There's about three plots going on throughout this episode.
Yeah, we have the fishing trip. There's like 4. There's the fishing trip.
4.
There's our main plot with the Tyler character.
Yeah.
There's Clark and Jonathan, Whitney and his dad, Lex and Lionel. Yeah, so there's 4 plots. And they all kind of marry each other because Tyler and his mom, it's all like father and parent, but for the other 3, it's father and son, which is a good way to cut to. We're at the Luther Mansion. Dominic Sanatori, who we've seen in a previous episode, I guess is Lionel's fixer, or he's one of his kind of guys.
He's one of, to quote Lex, I think he's one of Lionel's lapdogs.
Yeah, he's like that's perfect.
A lapdog / yes man.
Yes. So he wants to look at the books, and because Lex has spent a considerable amount of money, but not an insane amount, on the research with the car, and I was also thinking probably that's money going towards Cadamus as well.
Yeah, and with the mineral research.
Yes. So basically they have like a little cat and mouse thing back and forth. And then after this, we see Jonathan welding something or cutting something with a torch. And Dominic basically interrupts him and then tells him that Lex looked into their family, to which Jonathan's pissed off about.
Yeah, and then he says, or he asks if anything did turn up.
And he just walks away.
Which I'm sure Jonathan was probably worried about.
Yes. But although, like, if anything did, I'm sure he would have heard about it. But yeah, if any, I'm sure he was worried. We next jump to the Talon. Lex is meeting Clark. Clark tells him about the trip and how he doesn't want to go. Lex offers to give him tickets to the Metropolis Sharks, which Jonathan is a big fan of. And then I think there's also when Lex tells the story about going on a fishing trip with his dad, which was basically them swimming with sharks, great whites in Australia.
Yeah, he says, I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's a billionaire or something trying to feel human or trying to feel something at all.
Yes, exactly. And he also says it was like the last time they ever did anything together. So right after this, Lana gets a call. Whitney's dad has had another heart attack. I did not realize till now that his dad's name is George Fordman.
What?
Yeah, that's Whitney's dad's name. It's
oh my God.
Not Foreman, but like it's still kind of lazy. And then we see Clark and Lana visit him. I guess he's in bad shape, and Whitney hasn't shown up yet, which is that whole plot where Whitney doesn't want to go see his dad.
I actually had a similar thing happen.
Same.
Where my dad didn't have a heart attack. He actually, something else happened. I was terrified to see him, and like when he ultimately does in the end, I eventually did as well.
Yeah, same for me. It was my grandma, and she had Alzheimer's. And when it got to the point where she like didn't recognize me, it was like almost like it was hard to like, because then it's like, I don't know, it was like kind of hard to deal with, but I didn't end up going before she passed away. But yeah, I wish they would have actually delved into that side story a little bit more in this episode, rather than the whole like bad guys euthanizing old people who are sick. But
yeah,
they really don't we only get like one kind of scene coming up that we actually like touch on it. So Clark goes home, finds his dad preparing for the trip. He tells him he wants to go to the football game. Jonathan suspects Lex and tells him about the investigation, which Clark reveals that he knew about the whole time. And Jonathan is pissed that he didn't tell him, that Clark did not tell him about it.
And then Clark really gets into it and says some stuff he wishes he could take back about the history of the fishing trips.
And basically tells him, like, I don't need to be protected. I'm not 7 years old anymore, and just kind of walks away.
And you can feel Jonathan's heart just fall into his stomach.
Yep. But it's kind of a situation that I think most people go through with, like, I guess some sort of parental figure, where especially like teenage rebellion kind of thing, where they don't want to, they're not a child anymore. They want to be treated as an adult, which I think is very much what goes on in these first couple seasons between Clark and Jonathan. All right, so next we cut to, it's late at night. Tyler returns to see Mrs. Sykes, and that he's going to put her out of her misery. The dog keeps barking, then it stops. He gives her the white rose and takes her hand, and she turns to ash.
And we get a nice little outline of, or imprint of her body.
Yes. The next morning, Martha tells Clark to figure things out. She's not going to play referee. Then we cut to school, and Chloe tells Clark about Mrs. Sykes. And their official story is that she died in a fire, unofficially spontaneous combustion, because she's the only thing that's burnt, because she's ashes. This is when we get the situation where Clark goes and talks to Whitney. Whitney immediately calls out that Lana sent him up to it, and he said, yeah, I knew that you would see it coming a mile away. They have a conversation, and it basically ends with Clark saying, I'd rather have time with the man than the memory, I believe is the line.
Yeah.
But it is a kind of overall, like, I think even Clark understands how Whitney is feeling. But it is a pretty good scene, especially for Whitney. This is kind of the best thing they ever give him.
And a scene, or part of the scene we didn't touch on earlier, was when Lana and Clark see Mr. Fordman, and he mistakes Clark for Whitney.
Yeah, there's a couple like really short scenes in this episode that are like 2 lines. Like similar to that is the Clark and Martha, like that's like 2 lines, and then we cut right to the high school.
When I was young, like not even in junior high yet, I was in the hospital with my grandfather, and when I walked in, it was just extremely rough. And this was about 13 years ago.
Yeah, I've had to do it again for my grandma. My dad had a heart attack a couple of years ago. I had to do that, and then I think like we've talked about, we both have spent time in the hospital ourselves, so it's not a happy place most of the time, unless you're going for like a baby being born. No one's really in the hospital for good reasons.
I actually have a funny hospital story. I was drifting in and out of consciousness because I was hooked up to an IV. I wake up to find that my mom had bought me Burger King, and the drink and the fries and everything were on the sort of breakfast in bed type table they have in hospital beds. But I need to have sat up to get it, and this was after my second spinal fusion. And I was like, and immediately, in my head, I was like, oh, come on, this is torture.
So you were just like taunted by your Whopper or Whopper and fries or whatever you had?
I was taunted by my Whopper. I tried to have some of my drink, and it spilled all over my gown.
Sorry, like, I know it probably sucked in the moment, but like, I can perfectly imagine, like, you're just like, I just want this Coke so bad, and then you just like, go to sip it, and you're laying down, and it just like dumps on you.
Yeah, and while all this is happening, Ancient Aliens is on.
So you know that's why it happened.
Yeah, because
It was aliens.
George Tsoukalos was using his magic hair. I'm not saying it was your back, Alan. I'm saying it was my hair.
Well, this is a good segue to our Smallville kind of conspiracy person, which is Chloe. So she finds an article in the Daily Planet, which is an awesome call towards the newspaper that about the coroner.
Also, before Mrs. Sykes, or when she's talking about Mrs. Sykes, she brings up a case of someone who, like, supporting the spontaneous combustion theory.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I'm interested in, or I like it when they bring up actual conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah, it is funny. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is another one of those scenes. It's like, it's one line where she brings up the article, and then we cut right to her and Clark in Mrs. Sykes' house investigating, and Clark can't find, like, notices the dog isn't around, and X-rays visions to find the pile of dog ashes with the ID tag. And then he turns around and notices the white rose in the vase, which clearly tells him that it was that dude Tyler.
Speaking of Chloe, we totally forgot about Nicodemus, who was in that episode.
Oh yes,
I'll explain it.
Yeah, we can probably after we wrap the episode do like a
just a quick explanation.
So next we see Lex arriving at the farm. He goes to talk to Jonathan about the Sunday, the fishing trip and the game. and Jonathan confronts Lex about the investigation. Lex claims he was completely honest with Clark, and then realizes that Jonathan's mad because Clark wasn't honest with him. And then that's the end of that scene, and we cut to, this is another episode where we're like going back and forth all over the place to different places. So now we're at the mobile meals, which I guess, that's what it's called, mobile meals. Martha's delivering produce. This is when the guy grabs the vegetables and it turns to ash. And Martha realizes that he killed Mrs. Sykes and tells the owner to call the sheriff. Tyler tries to run. Hank grabs him, and then he turns to ash. Clark shows up as Tyler is approaching Martha and super speeds between them. Tyler puts his hand on Clark's face, which starts to turn black or gray.
And
he winces, and then
does he palm hit him, or does he actually punch him into the wall?
No, I think he shoves him. I think he does like that kind of like, he has like two moves this early in the season. He either like kicks people like from the ground and they go flying, or he like kind of shoves them with both hands. I think that's his move here. He just kind of like kind of shoves them away, but he's Clark, so they go flying. He flies into a pile of cardboard and then is gone. Clark's face returns to normal, and they head home. We cut to the Talon. Clark warns Lana about Tyler. Lana thanks him for talking to Whitney. Lex rescinds the offer for the tickets, saying that basically he should go with his dad and spend time with him. And he doesn't want to come between Clark and his father. And now we cut to the awesome return of Lana's parents' grave. Although this time she's not meeting Clark, she's meeting Whitney. And she gives him like a little pep speech about why he should cherish the time with his parents. So Whitney goes to leave to go see his father. And then she runs into Tyler, who overheard the situation, and he disappears.
He got a death boner.
Yep. And once again, we cut now back to the Talon. Chloe has more information on Tyler. The toxicology report indicates that he was taking a lot of painkillers, and that he actually failed to kill his mom. She recovered and she went home. Lana shows up and tells him that Tyler's going after Mr. Fordman. Clark speeds away like he always does, and now we cut to the hospital room. Whitney's there talking to his dad, who I think is kind of out of it.
Yeah.
And Tyler shows up. Clark takes out Whitney, I believe, right?
No, I think Tyler's wearing the
work gloves.
The work gloves, and shoves Whitney back, and he hits his head against the wall.
Yeah, so he's out cold. This is where Clark actually throws a punch. I believe he punches Tyler in the chest, and he goes flying out of the room. And then he tells Tyler that his mom is still alive and that he can take him to her. And then we cut to Tyler's mom's house, which is a new location, and she's asleep, but he sees that
she's not in pain. She's just sleeping.
Yep. And this is where it gets like oddly religious, when he's like, I thought I was like brought back to relieve other people their pain, but I was only trying to relieve my own. And then he touches his own hands, like he kind of does like a prayer position, and then turns to dust.
And this is the second time we've had something like this happen. The first one was with the Amy Adams character.
Oh, where she tries to take herself, or they kind of take themselves out.
Out of what they've I really wish I could wedge myself for what I'm about to do, but the oh no, what have I done moment.
Yep.
That was me trying to do an impression of Hayden Christensen's "What Have I Done" moment in Revenge of the Sith.
Well, you gave it much more emotion. That's probably why it was hard to realize. Oh man, the prequels. All right, so we're coming to a close. This is another, again, quick scene cut all over the place. We're at the Luthor Mansion. Lex drugs Dominic. Then we cut to Metropolis, where he's meeting his dad in the back alley. They have like a back and forth, and tells him not to send anybody to bother the Kents, and reveals that Dominic's in the trunk. And next time he won't return the person. And Lionel kind of goes like, "Good job," and then closes the trunk.
Which I was a little concerned about.
Oh, I thought it was actually like an awesome Lionel move to like close the trunk back up. Like, you failed me, so I'm done with you. Get out of this. You're on your own.
Oh no, I liked it, but that's not positive reinforcement.
Oh no, I don't think Lionel does anything like positive. And this is our last kind of scene of the episode. We cut to the high school football field, and Lex arranged for the Metropolis Sharks to come.
And do like an exhibition game or practice?
Yes, and with Whitney playing quarterback so that his dad can see him playing. Jonathan basically tells him like this isn't a very nice thing, and kind of a callback to earlier in our episode when he said like, Lex says something to Jonathan like, all you've ever seen is like Luther, and Jonathan says like, you've never given me a reason not to. This is kind of like a call to like, this is the first time Jonathan's really seeing Lex for not
As his own man.
Yeah. And then we cut to Lana and Clark are on the bleachers, and she basically figures out that Clark asked Lex to do it, and then gives Clark a kiss on the cheek, as we see like the Fordmans looking on at Whitney, and Clark kind of blushes, which is kind of weird that she gives him a kiss while they're at her boyfriend's game scrimmage while his dying dad is watching.
Yeah. If I was Whitney's dad, I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
What is going on over there?
It's not like there's a lot of people there. It's literally like the Sharks, the Fordmans, Clark and Lana, Lex and Jonathan. There's no one else there. So this episode was really weird. So why don't we do what we were going to say, I guess like a little retcon for last episode.
No, 2 episodes ago.
2 episodes ago. Oh my God. So Nicodemus, yes.
Nikki Klein, who played Galen Tyrrell's wife on Battlestar Galactica and is the real-life wife of Alza Mack, who plays Chloe, appeared in the episode as a waitress at the Talon when Lana, she played the I'm way in over my head, way in over my head character, asking Lana to help. Lana brushes her off and just takes some cash and leaves.
Oh man. So I guess we can get to, was there anything else in this episode you wanted to specifically talk about? Or did you just want to talk about, like, I guess, MVP, LVP?
This is actually the first episode where Whitney contributed.
Oh, yeah, like I was saying, this is the first time I think they've actually given him anything to do, besides being, like, douchey jock boy.
Yeah, and listeners in the Phantom Zone and guest chat, I was watching a video for something. I'm forgetting it. Lou, you might remember it.
It was from Supernatural, I think.
Yeah, it was season 10 or season 5. Something had to do with angels and demons. Eric Johnson played one of those characters, which is not surprising.
No,
And I was like, Lou, is this who I think it is? And as soon as immediately after I sent it, I posted it. He's like, fucking Wendy.
Yep, but CW does like doing that. They reuse people when they can. I guess besides that, I think this is their first episode with Lionel, where Lionel's not my MVP.
Yeah, because he only had a line or two.
Yeah, mine would be Lex. I think we got to see a lot of Lex in this episode, because we got to see Lex with Clark a couple times, Lex with Jonathan twice, and Lex with Lionel, and Lex with Lionel's buddy. So we get to see like several kind of different iterations of him, which anytime Rosenbaum is able to, I think, display the different facets of Lex, is always like my favorite.
I have to say the same. My MVP is Lex because for all the reasons you said, and he also breaks out he breaks out a lot of some philosophy when Dominic is trying to find out what he was spending the money on.
Like when he's threatening him and like kind of explaining,
that for his birthday, his 10th birthday, his father gave him a book by a really obscure book about.
Well, he gave him It's the Will to Power by Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Something that you would never give a 10-year-old.
And then brings up War and Peace.
Sun Tzu's Art of War. It is an interesting scene because he basically uses this is how my father taught me. So as much as
and how he ends it by pretty much saying that he is his father's son.
Yeah, I think this is when he drugged him. Is this scene?
No, this is
the first time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but this is actually the second time they've brought up Nietzsche, because in the pilot episode, yeah, I think Ilana has the book, and they obviously going to use it because it comes up several times. Because in that book, it talks about the Ubermensch, which is the Superman.
Yeah, and she says, "So what are you, Clark? Man or Superman?"
Yes.
Which they used in the teaser for the series finale.
And I guess the only other thing that's interesting is that actually, like on the woman website, I look at power set wise, Tyler's actually kind of one of the most powerful metas that to ever exist in this world because he's basically immortal, and he doesn't even have to touch you. If you touch him, like you'll pretty much die. Because even Clark is brought pretty close to death when he touches Clark.
Yeah, as he's telling Jonathan or Martha, he says, "I felt like my life was being drained away."
Yep. I don't know about you, but I really did not have an LVP in this episode because there's really very few people in this episode.
Oh, I had an LVP.
Okay.
The dog.
That was going to be, but the dog got it, so.
Well, currently I have, normally my dog, my Shiba Inu Mojo, is very much like Mrs. Sykes' dog. And my my brother's wife's dog is basically here till has been here since Tuesday. Every time the two of them see each other, one is my Shiba Inu is a male, the other dog is a female, and they have had. She wants to play with him. He's terrified because when he was not even a year old, she ran under him. And that never happened to him. Never happened to him since. And because of that, he hates her.
No, really.
And today, he got really aggressive.
Oh, well, that sucks and is something you got to watch out for.
Yeah.
All right. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about in this episode? It was a pretty clear episode.
Yeah, there's really not much to talk about besides what we did.
Yep. I think the next episode's going to be a little bit more ridiculous because it is a ridiculous episode.
The
bees.
You know, when I was watching this episode and I was thinking of the next episode, you could totally have switched, or you could totally have made that the title for the next episode drone. This episode's title, because for at least Lex's storyline, because Dominic is a drone. He even uses the word drone when talking to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, what's funny is this is basically a very similar power that we constantly make fun of in Phantom Zone for a character. Is that like season 1 of The Flash?
It's season 1 of The Flash and season 4 of Arrow.
Yeah, but in this case, it's actual bees and not robot bees.
Yeah.
But we can listen to the trailer right here.
On the WB's New Tuesday, an all-new Smallville. Nature created them. This town changed them.
Nothing around here is what it seems.
Now mankind will fear them.
It's like the colony's just up and left.
Did you hear that?
An all-new Smallville.
All right, so this is going to be episode 18. We're getting really close to the end of season 1. There's only
we're also getting closer to Christopher Reeve on Smallville.
Oh yes, that is true. That will be amazing.
I think it's 209 or below or before that.
We're also getting, I don't know if it's this episode or one coming up where the Principal Quan dies. No, I think he has like one more episode and then he gets killed. Oh, all right. So I guess that basically covers everything. So plugs.
You can follow me on Twitter at the Alan Muir. You can follow me on Instagram at ComicsBoy. Lately, I've been posting images from the Kelvin Timeline Star Trek book, where they basically just redo the same storylines from TOS. And the creative consultant is a 9/11 truther.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kelvin Timeline is the JJ timeline?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the creative consultant is Roberto Orsi, co-writer of the first 2 Trek films that Abrams did.
Yeah, so Star Trek and Into Darkness.
He also had a hand in the first 3 Transformers movies.
I think those are the only ones I've seen.
He had a hand in Fringe. He was originally going to direct, before Justin Lin stepped in to direct Star Trek Beyond. It was originally going to be Roberto Orsi. And I think after the Star Trek the Kelvin series got canceled, To Boldly Go got launched, which is a shame because the art, at least for where I am in the series, which I'm borrowing the volumes from of Comixology and Unlimited, they look really good. Like they've
Cool.
got like the likenesses down. It's one of the it's a hit. I consider it a hidden treasure so far.
All right, that's cool. You can find me at Lou A Gonzalez on Twitter and Instagram. I mostly put pictures of my dog or sometimes the beer I am drinking and all the different shows that we do, which is also, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Phantom Zone, as well as all the other associated podcasts like
Movie
Dumpster and Los Haro. I guess don't forget to check out the blogs on Los Haro as well, and join the Phantom Zone group if you haven't already.
And that just about wraps everything up for this episode.
We'll check you guys on the next one. I'm Lou Gonzalez.
I'm Alan Muir, and this podcast stands for Truth, Justice, and the American Way.